Credo che da questo punto di vista Akhil Aryan, che ha una grande competenza su questa materia proprio di start-up e di e-commerce, ci possa dare una testimonianza molto molto utile ai nostri approfondimenti.
Is this fine? Awesome. 15. That's how old I was when I had my first successful startup. This is me in Manhattan, New York, on that day. I was visiting my brother in New York. He was still in university. My company was called Limelight, and the logo was a Google stock image. The idea was simple. Limelight would be a scraper for websites like Alibaba and eBay, which were not famous at that time. And it would go through those websites, bring out leads for a specific product, put them into an Excel sheet, and I sold that Excel sheet to wholesalers in New York for $2,000 each. Let's just say I had a really successful summer break. My name is Akhil Aryan, and today I will speak briefly about my views on youth entrepreneurship and startups and that impact on the world right now. Let's understand what a startup is first. I'm guessing most of you know what it is, but I'm just still going to define it. According to Wikipedia, a startup is a business in the form of a company or an organization that is in search for a repeatable and scalable business model. What's important to understand is that it's a search for a business model. It's a process of conducting experiments to try and solve a problem. Easily put, startups and entrepreneurship are about fixing things. You look for things that bother you, that irritate you, and then you fix it. So it's not about having family wealth or having this one eureka moment of this amazing idea. It's just being irritated by something and say, I'm going to fix this. Because if something bothers you, it probably bothers a million other people who would pay a small price for the solution. And that's what's amazing. I'll go back to this previous slide because I want to talk about the picture that's on it. I don't know how many of you know what this picture actually is. It's the Google Loon project. It's a project that Google launched where they launched balloons on the edge of the atmosphere where they're shooting down Wi-Fi to the entire world and solving the Wi-Fi problem for the world. And that's what's amazing about technology these days. Entrepreneurs around the world are trying to answer this question. The question is not what is possible. This is possible. Question is what isn't possible. And that's the amusing part about starting companies right now. Entrepreneurs around the world are trying to push the limits of imagination and trying to figure out a way to solve society's oldest problems with technology. Recently, I was at an entrepreneurship panel similar to this in Madrid, and I was asked a question, what is your mantra for aspiring entrepreneurs when we talk about teaching the youth about what they should do in terms of putting together a company for themselves? And this was my answer. If you want it enough, you will find a way. If not, you will find an excuse. This is the single most important statement of my life. Look back at anything all of you have achieved in your lives, and what you've achieved, you will find a way that you found a way to go through your obstacles and achieve that. Today, you have a new set of obstacles in front of you. You're either finding a way or you're finding an excuse. I like to think of entrepreneurs as clowns. It's funny, right? People laugh at us. People think of us as freaks. When we promise that we can walk on a tight rope between two buildings, a crowd gathers just to see what happens. That's what entrepreneurs are. There are these shows where all these people are waiting and seeing what happens to this person. Outcomes are binary. He will either make it all the way or he will not. But if he succeeds, it's not the money, it's not the celebrity status, it's not the corner office that makes him achieve that. It's the fact that all the people who are watching him walk on that tightrope, their belief systems are changed forever. The way they look at themselves, the way they look at what is possible by themselves changes. The way they groom their children changes. So I like to think of it as a ripple effect. If one person, if one Mark Zuckerberg becomes a Mark Zuckerberg, it impacts 1,000 other people to try. If we have enough ripples in the world, we'll be able to change the mindset of mankind. But we're not talking just about concepts. We're not talking about these philosophy topics over here. We're talking about real things. Entrepreneurship is actually distorting reality. Startups become successful only if they can launch a product that adds value. It's not about having an R&D department which has amazing looking things on their desks. It's about putting it out there into reality, selling it to people, and making it available. Tesla, I don't know how many of you, I'm sure most of you have heard of the company. They proved how electric cars can become not only a good-looking vehicle, but also a sustainable vehicle for normal people, and they launched it out. The good thing about this is that it influences innovation and forces larger corporations to launch their products that were usually sitting in their R&D decks. So after Tesla, now BMW is coming out with their i8 model, trying to actually become a part of the revolution. What I'm trying to say is that the world is changing. These are two pictures that were taken while the Pope was being unveiled. In 2005, you can see everyone's heads. There's one early adopter of the mobile phone on the bottom right. You can see him. And then in 2013, smartphones and tablets have become extension of our fingers. They're part of us. In less than a decade, we've seen a global technological revolution. But you already know this. I'm telling you the thing you already know because you're part of this revolution. So why am I saying this again? I'm saying this because we're responsible. All of us in this room. When it comes to entrepreneurship, if you want the youth of the nation to actually become entrepreneurs and get out there and take the risk to start a startup, we need to create an ecosystem for that. For entrepreneurs, for startups, ecosystem is everything. Smart people only like to work with other smart people. We need to create an environment that attracts talent, finance, entrepreneurs. We need to create that ecosystem for them. Let's not become the Nokia. Nokia was an amazing company. They had touchscreen figured out long before the iPhone was launched. They had concepts for touchscreen phones and tablets 5 years before the launch of the first iPhone. But we don't want more files on your R&D deck. We need to bring them to reality. And that's what entrepreneurs do. Entrepreneurs push the limits of what they can bring into real life for all of us and make it available. The best minds of the world have not been able to look at technology objectively. Thomas Watson, who was the chairman of IBM, thought that the world market for computers was just 5 computers. Sir William Preece, who was the most iconic chief engineer for the British Post Office, thought that telephones would never become a thing. This is my prediction for today. Innovation will become the strongest pillar for sustained economic growth for all the nations of the world. If we need to stay on the forefront of this, if we need to stay ahead of the game, we need to create the ecosystem where people can actually think about entrepreneurship and startups. I have a small video that I'd like to share with everyone to understand what I understand about entrepreneurship. Hopefully you'll get something out of it, if we can just play the video. All that I have to say to end this is that maybe we all need to start up. All the people in this room can come together and make that change. If we all want it enough, let's start now. Thank you.